O'Neill, 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a new episode of the Kawoosh podcast. We are at episode 9 and I am joined as always. I am Arne. This is...
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm Evie. Hi.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about Thor's hammer today. So this is the first episode where they introduce Norse mythology into the universe. We start off at SG Command and Jackson has a new theory about the Stargate. He says there were two different kinds of star gods. The tyrants who punish and control. Carter adds, you mean the Gua'old? And he says there were also the culture bearers. And he doesn't believe the Gua'old built the Stargate system because they are parasitic in nature and they probably just used what was already there.
Which is kind of a very binary idea, but for a TV show, it's sort of, I'll allow it. And I do like the idea that the Gua'old found the system and was like, oh, cool, we can use it.
Well, it starts out as a binary idea, but they do keep exploring and seeing it. And then they introduce the ancients, but they were not alone. So you have the Ori. So it does keep growing in mythology.
True. But I just mean, like, you have the bad guys and you have the good guys. It's like, okay.
Well, on the other side, that's kind of what the episode's also exploring a little bit with Teal'c. So Hammond asks if he has an idea who those people or those other gods may be. And he says, yes, the Vikings. More specifically, Thor, because he was a friend of mankind and he has a weapon, Thor's hammer, which he says is described as being a weapon with energy or light that comes out of it, so he thinks it's a physical thing.
I understand that they wanted to go towards, that kind of mythology. But I love that they said, do you know of any gods who are good to humans? And Daniel just goes, Thor. And I'm like, but Thor did so many questionable things with humanity. That's the one you're going for?
Yeah, he's also kind of the exception, because if you directly look at Loki, his brother, he's completely the opposite. So not all the gods are good. Like,
but even
you're picking and choosing.
Have you read some of Thor's shenanigans? He's a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all have this Chris Hemsworth idea of Thor nowadays, but like but that's just what I'm saying. Daniel didn't see those movies yet, so his understanding of the myths would be
old books. Yeah.
Just Thor being a dumb, uncaring. I don't know. I just felt like, yes, I'm gonna go with Thor. I'm like, really? Not Jesus?
It is kind of.
They have to get there
well-known,
somehow.
yeah. Also, yeah, it's cool to play around with the aesthetic.
True. And I love how he kept zooming in on the pictures that he kept showing. It's like, this is Thor, and then he zooms in twice, and then this is Thor's hammer, and then he zooms in twice, and I'm like, what are you doing?
And O'Neill then just sums it up in like, they could use the weapon to fight Gua'old, and having an ally wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I love Jack's translation.
Yeah, it was quite obvious, but sure.
Yeah, but he's like, this is the punchline, Daniel. That's what you need to sell this.
And then Teal'c surprises everyone by saying he has seen the sign of the hammer before. It is, and it's in relation to a planet called Cimmera. All Jafai know of it. They even know the gate address, and they are warned to stay away from it.
And then Daniel acts all surprised, and I do feel that Daniel just needs to start running his presentations past Teal'c, because he keeps being surprised that this alien knows alien things.
It's like, I'm the expert. No, the guy who lived it is the expert.
So, I think it's this because of my expert knowledge. I have seen this on a school trip. He just like, maybe say, hey, Teal'c, you want to give this a read? Just if you have pointers.
And then in the gate room, Hammond presents O'Neill with a greeting box to present themselves as humans to these gods. And Jackson is very happy because apparently he's the one who suggested to do it. It's kind of like the plaque on the Voyager satellite.
Can somebody explain to me why on all these welcome plaques that we send off into space, and in this case through the Stargate, why are the people on it naked? It's always a thing. And
to show off the biology, I
Yeah,
guess.
but how
then-
is that smart? Like, here, aliens we may not know, here is how our biology works. I have never understood
Yeah, but the
that.
thing that I'm questioning is, at this point, they know humans have been spread around
Yeah, that
to
too.
other planets.
That too.
So here's our biology. They know. They
Yeah.
put us there.
I know, but that's not what they could have told the team that had to make
Yeah.
that box.
And on
It's
the other
just-
hand, I'm kind of curious. They never show what's inside the box.
it's a lunchbox. It's empty. You can just take it to work.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's-
what's in it? Because that's actually more interesting. How are you going to present all these things to? Well, anyway, we'll never
Anyway.
see this again.
Yeah, true.
After
that
this
too.
episode.
That
So
too. For some reason.
then we cut to some kind of obelisk, and the camera pans up, and on top of it is the sign of Thor's hammer, and it
Which
is-
they never call it Mjolnir.
They do call
do?
it. Yeah, but they call it differently. I wrote both down, so we'll get back to that. But
Okay.
it has the sign on top of it, and the sides of the obelisk have all these Viking markings on it. And we see a wide view with villagers walking past of it, and the Stargate is actually right in front of the obelisk. And it activates, and the team gets thrown out.
No. 3 of them get thrown out, and Teal'c lands on his feet. He does this very cool running, leaping thing, and then he just lands. Like,
Yeah. And all the Viking villagers start laughing at them, and Jack goes like, Daniel, you're on, and he points at the villagers. And those Vikings start chanting, Thor, 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 as we hear the obelisk start making noise like it's charging up something. And a beam comes out of it, scanning SG-1 one by one, Teal'c being the last one who starts crying out in pain, his hand on his symbiont, and Jack jumps in to help him, and they both get zapped away. And we cut to opening credits. So when we get back, Daniel theorizes that this device, or the obelisk, is Thor's hammer, and that they might be dead. But Carter doesn't want to hear of it, and she wants to start a search. At this point, a woman on horseback arrives, and she remarks, "You're a little short for gods." And she thinks they are from Fruitfang?
hang on, does she say you're a little short for gods?
Yes.
About the Asgard? That's hilarious.
Yeah, but they don't know what the Asgard look like.
No, but as a little scene
Yeah.
and joke for later, that's hilarious because the Asgard are short
yeah.
for gods. I just got that. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, Fruitfang is apparently the Thor's home in the stars, and I hope I wrote it down correctly because it passed really quickly. And she welcomes the team. They ask her for help, and she says that she heard there were 2 Ettins with her, and which is apparently their name for the Gua'old. And Daniel also tells them that their peoples are distantly related and that they are from Midgard. So Daniel asks what happens when people get caught by Thor's hammer, and apparently there once was a woman, Kendra, who was sapped away and later found again wandering the woods. So obviously they want to go talk to her. Then we cut to Jack and Teal'c in a cave, and the Gua'old larva inside of Teal'c is like coming out screeching, and it is obviously in pain. And then a hologram appears of Thor in full Viking regalia, and it tells them that Cimmera is a safe world for humans to develop. And Jack tries talking to him, but Thor,
it's an answering machine.
yeah, it actually he remarks like we got the answering machine. Thor says that everyone with a Gua'old inside will be punished for their crimes, that this is now their prison, but if they ever get tired of it, they must face the hammer. And this is where they call it Mjolnir, or that's how they pronounce it, but it's supposed to be Mjolnir.
Well, we don't know that. Maybe it's both is correct.
Yeah, so I wrote both down. I wasn't really sure. But so they do call the hammer by its mythological name, or at least something like it. And only the host will survive this test. So Teal'c says that means he will have to stay because he cannot live without his larva. The rest of the team, meanwhile, arrives at Kendra's house. The woman is using a Gua'old hand device on a girl, and Daniel immediately wants to come in between, but Garwin, the woman, stops him. It turns out that the hand device is a healing device.
Yes, and apparently you have to charge it up before you use it by pointing it directly and threateningly into someone's face before then panning down and healing the wrist. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of a misdirect.
it's like, here, can you unlock this for me? It's just...
Facial recognition. You're fine, we'll heal you. But when she's done, they go talk to her, and it turns out she used to be a Gua'old. She still has the scar at the back of her neck, but Thor's hammer drove the Gua'old out of her. Daniel immediately tells her his wife is in the same situation and he wants to find their friends so he can help his wife.
Yeah, he gets hopeful real fast.
Yeah, it's an immediate switch. Mm-hmm. Then we go back to the cave where Jack and Teal'c are walking and they find a dead Gua'old snake. And Teal'c remarks it died without the host, and he finds...
What? No, he died with the host because there's bones there.
But he also says that there are markings of cutting tools. Apparently it's been... I understood that it was cut out.
No, the beast ate him. It was made by cutting, but it was not metal, and he thought it was sharp teeth. I understood that he ate. This gold died with
Then I
its host.
completely misunderstood what they were saying. Okay, so...
It's basically like, hey, there's a dead Gua'uld here with the host body, and it got eaten. That's
okay.
not good.
Yeah, so that's foreshadowing for later.
Yeah, I like the water effect here.
Yeah,
There's like ripples of light.
they go on and we see some kind of claw touching the water of the lake.
Yeah, the old monster in the labyrinth trope.
Back at Kendra's, they are sharing a meal. Daniel wants to know if the procedure is painful, and Kendra tells him it is less painful than the harm she has done with the Gua'uld inside of her.
I'm sorry, but they have these drinking horns, and I immediately noticed that they didn't have anything to put them on, because normally you have those things. Like, once you hold them, you can't just put them down because it leaks everywhere, but you can put them in things. Those things exist, but they didn't give them those. So you can just see them holding this awkwardly, and then in the next shot, they're all gone. And then in the next shot, you can see Daniel like holding his on the table. I'm like, did you just drink it in one go, or are your pants wet now? Like... Like somebody thought, hey, drinking horns are cool, but then they didn't make it practical. I have a lot of issues with the practicality of the cool stuff they used in this episode.
It's
Because-
also another episode where they go to really small places. Like they don't really visit the village. They go to this one woman who lives outside in the woods with a little cabin.
Which I don't really mind all that much, but that's not a little cabin. I mean, somebody put a lot of work in there. But I'm on a tangent now. I'm just going to keep on going. She has this dress on, and it's this beautiful medieval red dress, and it has these really long sleeves. And that is actually a fashion. But, however, when you're working, you're supposed to tie those around your arm. There's a system for that. So when she's healing, when she's doing stuff, why are they flapping all around? That is not practical. That is not how you do
A
those.
clear lack of research.
And then... Exactly, and then later on when they start traveling, she puts on a cloak, but the cloak is too long. It drags over the ground. That's not how they wore cloaks. Your cloak was supposed to be like, not entirely Hobbit style, but like something in between there. Okay, I'm done now. I'm just...
It's the typical kind of little details that they
Yeah.
miss because they're on a schedule. They have 10 days to film an episode, and they probably just go to rental houses and get some stuff from
Yeah,
there.
and they probably don't even think about that, because that's how people are supposed to look in that time frame, so that's what they... And then the actress probably went like, hey, this is really annoying. Like, I don't know, just go with it. Like, oh, okay, cool. You can tie those, right?
I think on a TV budget and schedule, they just don't have the time to go into those details. They just...
Well, then why did they put her in that dress, though?
Yeah, good question.
They probably just had it lying around.
Yeah, but remember the blue dress in Emancipation?
Yeah, they probably also just had that lying around.
It's eye-catching. It's
Yeah.
You immediately know it's her because of the red dress and...
Well, yeah, but she's always alone in the shot with her too,
Yeah.
as she went. So anyway, that's the last I'll say of that, sorry.
Okay, so she tells them that they have to wait for Jack and Teal'c to just reappear, and then everything will be well. But Carter intervenes and tells them that Teal'c is their friend too, that he's a Jaffa and he can't live without his larva, and that he no longer serves the Gua'old.
And I felt that, like this lady, Kendra, she got really upset about Jaffa and they're all bad and I know what they did. I'm like, lady, you also were coerced in doing evil things. The Jaffa
Yeah.
literally don't have a choice. They're implanted with this larva. Their whole civilization can't exist without you. Like, this is pretty harsh.
There's also this point and the fact that he can't live without it. Those are all things they keep repeating. Kendra doesn't want to believe them. She stands up and thunder rolls and wind sets in. And she says the Valkyrie are riding on the wind and they tell her to believe them and to help them.
Which is really convenient.
And then Kendra will take them, but only after she consulted the runes, because I think they just needed some more time to finish the episode.
I don't. Like, what cool things can we do with this?
Yeah, that scene was like
That was really weird.
so
Also,
obviously
I have to go
time-filling.
sit in a circle. I will now first construct this circle with stones. Don't you just have that? I mean, do you have to make the circle again every time?
Yeah.
It didn't really make a lot of fun. A lot of sense.
Yeah. We go to Jack and Teal'c, and they enter a big carved room. And Jack tells Teal'c, shoot at that lamp with your staff weapon, but it doesn't work, as Thor said. But Jack's P90, because it's low tech, still works, and he's able to shoot the lamp down.
Well, it's also not Gua'old tech, so they probably just
Yeah.
blocked very specific tech.
Energy weapons,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But this shooting awakens a creature, and we see a close-up of a really scary face.
And that was good. That was good prosthetics. That is a good suit.
It's also a good design.
Yeah, because it has like qualities that are reminiscent of the Gua'old. You can believe, like later on they say this creature was of the home planet of the Gua'old. You can believe that they, evolved in the same environment.
Teal'c then tells Jack that the technology of the hammer may help Skara and Share to purge their Gua'uld from their body. And they hear a splash. They look behind them, but they see nothing.
Dun dun dun.
We cut back to Kendra standing in a stone circle, and she's calling upon Thor for a sign.
She's basically waiting for thunder to roll.
Yeah, Daniel
Yeah.
and Carter join her in the circle, and Daniel asks how much she remembers from before, and she tells him much. She used to be a beautiful child, which was apparently a curse among their people. Daniel immediately understands because, that's the Gua'uld want perfect hosts.
I don't want to be mean, but why didn't they just put like a big scar over her face or something?
Yeah.
I mean,
she tells them they tried to hide her.
they
but she
tried
got
to hide
taken
me. Okay,
anyway.
cool. Like maybe even some prosthetic makeup. I don't know. I feel like there's. Well, I mean,
It's
makes.
also like they say this here, but later on we will have other Gua'uld system lords, and they will be like, well, let's be honest, not perfect.
Well, maybe they just have a different sense of what is beautiful for them because everybody is beautiful. Or maybe they just had the body when it was beautiful and then they just mistreated it.
True.
Which is also, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
if they told me your kid is in danger of being kidnapped for life because it's too beautiful, like, I don't know.
It's just we needed some time filling in some
We also
some
needed
backstory on her.
a reason to seed doubt in the whole can somebody be saved as a host, because she brings up this temple upbringing and that she was able to stay conscious. And I felt it's a little bit iffy though, because she's like, oh, because of my training, I was able to keep my wits about me. You never talk to another host, so how do you know that not everybody is still present in their own body
I
while
suppose
they're...
they don't really talk about that because that
Yeah.
would give him away. It does seed some doubt
Yeah,
in
that's
if
true.
she's truthful or not. But we're not there
And also,
yet.
you it seeds doubt in, will this work for, Share and
And Skara. yeah.
Skara.
Kendra tells her that because of her training, she was able to fight back. So Daniel starts again believing that something of the host must survive. Kendra convinced the Gua'uld inside of her to come to Cimmera to find riches, and they ended up in the labyrinth, and she was able to purge the creature from her. And then thunder rolls, a sign from Thor, and they stand up and leave. In the cave, a large creature approaches and it starts speaking to Teal'c.
And it sounds exactly like Darth Vader.
It is, in fact, James Earl Jones.
It is.
Yeah. It's actually really, the lip sync is really well done because they obviously have another actor in the
Yeah,
suit.
but for like a second, I'm like, wait, is he in there? But he's obviously not.
Yeah, he doesn't have the physicality of the Unas, but his voice is so good and it works perfectly for this creature.
If they would have shot this later, then that would have been Doug Jones.
Well, they will come across some other Unas because here it identifies itself as an Unas, the first one, and it gets pretty much. They don't really go into the creature and the background a lot.
No, but it's basically they evolved on the same planet.
Yeah.
And the Gua'old used them as the very first hosts.
Yeah.
That's...
Teal'c kind of reacts in disbelief, says it doesn't exist.
Which is never nice to say to someone's face, Teal'c. Come
Yeah.
on. That's rude.
And the Unas orders Teal'c to kill Jack so they can feast on him, but Teal'c answers he no longer serves the Gua'old. And Jack just shoots at the Unas,
which-
like unloads his weapon until it falls down dead.
I mean, on brand of both
Yeah.
of them, how they react.
So they move on, but
hang on.
yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like they should have double tapped, though. Like,
Well,
the
it
creature
did
goes
shoot
down...
a lot of bullets in it.
Just one extra bullet to the brain would have solved them a lot of trouble, is all I'm saying.
Well, I'm not sure because it apparently is able to heal itself. Because when they walk away, the eyes start glowing and it will return. Then we have this little short traveling montage of Carter, Daniel, and Kendra on their
Oh,
way.
you forgot to say that Teal'c compares the Unas to like your vampires. Which means that Teal'c is researching Earth and has come upon vampires. So now I'm wondering, has he been reading up on myths? Or did he catch a vampire movie on TV?
I'm guessing the second one.
Okay, but then what movie did he see? Because this is the 90s. So
Oh,
thank God it's not Twilight.
Yeah.
But which one are we watching in the 90s? Would it be...
Bram Stoker's Dracula, maybe?
Or
I'm not
would it
sure
be-
when it came out, but
Which one is it? With Michael and David? Like, almost...
Underworld?
No. No, vampires. One of the... Like, the vampire is either... I keep messing them up. The boys.
The Lost Boys.
Yes.
That could be. Yeah, that was in the 80s, so
And Interview with the Vampire was...
early 90s, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know why it's important to me to know which vampire movie Teal'c watched.
But we do know that he consumes a lot of pop culture.
He does.
It will become a larger part of his background.
Yeah, but I just love that that's already in there. And I just like to theorize which movies he did watch.
We cut back to the cave where Teal'c heard a sound, but Jack tells him to calm down. And at this point, it's Teal'c who tells Jack that Unas are or were supposed to be the first hosts, and they developed on the same primordial waters as the Gua'old. Teal'c also tells him that there are more species around, different from humans, and that they are more savage than some they already know. So Jack asks if they should have gone back and drive a stake through its heart. But
Double tap, is what I'm
Teal'c tells
saying.
him, no, it's dead. I believe.
Yes.
Them coming back is just a myth.
Just like they themselves were a myth, you know.
We cut back to the others, and Kendra is kind of getting turned around, and they have a moment to sit down because walking and talking was apparently harder to shoot. So they sit down, and Daniel asks if they are lost, but they take a break, and he immediately starts asking whether she felt the creature inside when she purged it and how it felt when it was driven out. She immediately understands that he's asking for his wife, and they start talking about her. Like, oh, and she's a fighter, and she will be able to live through
he
this.
literally
and-
says, Shauré is a fighter. Is she though? Is she really?
Yeah.
I have never seen this woman fight.
Then again, he always puts her on a pedestal, so it's on brand for Daniel.
I know, but would you say? I don't know.
I'm just like,
It's-
okay, let's just get it over with.
Yeah. Back in the cave, the monster that should not return.
Yeah, is digging the bullets out of its skin, and Jack and Teal'c hear its roars. And so Jack goes, that's no myth. we got back to Carter, Jackson, and Kendra, and they are walking over some really cool waterway.
Yeah.
I don't know, some maybe for a dam or something. We don't really see what it is in real life because when we cut to the reverse shot at the end of the scene, there's a matte painting that's probably covering up some kind of building.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It's
It
like
is
these
cool.
straight waterways. And Kendra says they are closed now, but Carter is getting annoyed because she said that hours ago and she's not sure Kendra is telling them the truth. Maybe she doesn't want to bring them to the labyrinth, but Daniel is all in and he really wants to believe her. And
Which
then-
is also on brand
Yeah.
for both of them.
And then at the end, Kendra yells, "It's this way!" and he acts all vindicated. In the cave, the Unas confronts them again, and he tells them their weapons cannot kill him, and that he knows the way out of the labyrinth, but they just shoot him again.
Yes, which I do feel conserve your bullets. Like they keep on firing long after he's turned the corner, and then like the scene after that, Jack's like, "I'm down to my last mag." Like
Yeah.
I wonder how that was, you know.
Exactly, because I think Teal'c has a pistol, probably Jack's pistol.
Yeah, Jack gives it to him.
Yeah.
Didn't you see that?
Yeah, it's in the previous scene, right?
Once they figure out his weapon doesn't work, Jack immediately hands him the gun.
Yeah, but that pistol should have been out of bullets a while ago.
It shoots a lot of bullets. Like,
It's the typical 90s movie,
Yeah.
infinite magazines. Until it's the last one, then it's suddenly...
yeah.
Kendra brings the others up a mountainside and points at a cave entrance.
She's very good at pointing.
Yeah,
Have you
and
noticed?
it bears the sign of the hammer. And she kind of tries to describe the inside of the labyrinth. There's rooms and hallways and like, okay, yes,
So
that's
it's a labyrinth.
labyrinth.
Oh my gosh. Also,
And-
I feel like what's it like inside? You've been walking for hours. Could you not have discussed this beforehand?
As I
mean,
said, walking and talking is a lot harder to shoot.
it is, and I know like why they didn't talk before, but you know,
And she also tells them that there's something else inside, alive.
dun dun dun.
Then also tells her that she doesn't need to go in if she doesn't want to. Thunder rolls and she says she has to try because Thor tells her to.
Okay, just at this point, she just feels like a huge liability, and I wouldn't even want her with me on a mission. I mean, like, it's okay, you can stay behind. I'm like, yes, please stay behind. This is very... I mean,
Yeah, and they only needed her to show
Yeah.
them like this is the back exit.
Anyway,
Meanwhile, Jack has found a doorway in the rocks and it is shaped like a hammer. But when Teal'c passes through it, an energy field stops him and he starts crying in pain. So Jack jumps back in to help him out.
which is the second time Jack tackles Teal'c.
Yep. They hear the Unas approaching, so Jack puts in his last magazine. And I've been wanting to check it, but I keep forgetting. These are already the P90s, right? With
Yeah.
the top-loading magazine. So, fun fact about that, those are Belgian.
It's not that fun.
No, it's not a really fun fact, but they
No.
are made in Liège, in Luck, and they are apparently the only ones that do the top-loading magazine, or at least back then. And they chose them because it looks cool to have a top-loading magazine, and that's the only reason, actually. So yeah, just a little tidbit. The others start going into the tunnel, and then Kendra starts telling them she has to face her fear.
Which she never does, let's be honest.
Yeah,
She,
but
like,
there's a lot of starting and stopping in
Yeah.
the story.
it's
from,
a lot of we have to keep cutting back to
Yeah.
the second team. You really didn't.
No,
You could have
Not
just
really.
They could have just been at the door and then suddenly, oh hi, are you here too? What a coincidence! But no, they kept cutting back to this
yeah,
nonsense.
and I was expecting that the doubt we have in Kendra's honesty that it was gonna lead to something, but it really doesn't. So
yeah, and then also she doesn't even face any fears.
no,
So
which is a shame because
Yeah.
if that happened, it would have at least been for something, and it would have been a nice little B story. But
or at the end when they decide, hey, let's destroy this thing so we can get out, maybe she could have been like, hey, let's not because this is keeping my entire planet safe. You know, maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But at that point, it was very obviously like, okay, good. We have to.
yeah, they could have easily cut some other parts out and
Mm-hmm.
put that in there.
I feel like because it's very cut into parts because the commercials have to be in between those parts. And I feel like there may be just sort of, maybe not laws, but like rules when you're writing episodes that all of the main actors had to be in every segment.
It's quite
As if
possible.
you might forget they exist otherwise. I don't know. I feel like they keep cutting back to them and like just parallel walking them both to that point, even though storyline A is much more interesting than storyline B.
But that's what I mean when I say that writing for those kind of episodes was a skill. To balance those out really was a skill, because you always have an A story and a B story.
Yeah, and I just feel like they had to give everybody the same amount of screen time.
But they
Which I do-
don't, because I think Carter and Daniel have a lot less screen time in this one.
It feels like they have all the screen time. That's
It
probably
feels
because
like they have more than they should have.
Yeah.
Because their story doesn't really amount to anything.
No.
And it could have worked. But
I don't
anyway,
know.
we're
Anyway,
running ahead a
they're
little
at the-
bit.
yeah, they're at the big
game.
showdown.
Yeah. So the Unas confronts them again, and they hear it coming. Teal'c asks Jack if they have the same tactical idea, to which Jack responds that the slang for it, or what's the word he uses?
the way you say it is, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
It's like, I like Teal'c's way better though.
And the Unas comes in and asks Jack why he allies himself with a slave. He starts telling them how they were once a powerful people and that they ruled over many. And then he attacks. He swats Jack aside and he attacks Teal'c. And Teal'c fights him off with his staff.
Which, that was some good fighting for being in a suit. Because that cannot be easy. And they really made it look good.
Yeah,
So kudos to whoever was in that suit.
And it was kind of cool to see Teal'c fighting with a staff weapon without being able to fire it. So he used it completely differently, which makes sense. Because why is a weapon that big if you're not going to use it for anything else? Why it could have been way smaller.
They fight.
They fight and Teal'c manages to push him off, and they both start shooting at the Unas together, and they driving into the opening.
But the creature like flails its arms out and then it
Yeah.
won't go into the opening. Because,
Exactly.
you know,
On the other
dramatic.
side of at the exit of the labyrinth, Carter and Daniel hear the shots, so they want to go and help, but there is a door in the way. And
but luckily,
Yeah.
Kendra can open it with magic.
yes, he
which,
just like says a password.
it's basically, she just recites a poem or like a sort of
Yeah.
a thing, and then the door opens, and I'm like, okay, what?
Weird obstacle to overcome,
Yeah.
especially if she just knows the password.
And also, this is the way out. Why is it even locked?
Well, it could maybe be in one direction only, but it never gets explained. It's
No.
a bit of a weird obstacle just to have him not enter too soon.
Yeah.
Like they cut back and forth, because I'm throwing
Yeah.
some scenes a little bit together because it's really cutting back and forth between the two.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. And then Teal'c grapples the Unas and just steps into the doorway together with him, because it's the only way. But Jack still manages to pull him out in time, leaving the Unas standing there screaming until it falls down dead.
yeah.
And Teal'c says, like, and now without the healing powers of the Gua'old, it will not regenerate.
Which is kind of sad
Yeah.
for the host. I feel like this is a really bad day for Junior. Like the symbiote in
Yeah.
Teal'c is called Junior. I think it might be the first time Jack calls it Junior, or like the second time, but that kind of becomes the name that they give it. And I feel like if Junior had a diary, then he would be like, worst day ever.
At some point in this final confrontation, Daniel and Carter arrived on the other side of the door with Kendra, and they start, when the creature falls down, they start explaining the situation, and Daniel is glad the hammer seems to work, but Jack counters that this means Teal'c is still trapped. Teal'c offers to stay, because that's who he
Teal'c.
is.
Because Teal'c is awesome. And I also understand that Jack is, no, we're getting you out of here. However, they have rations, they have time. Why didn't they leave Teal'c there for the moment and then try to retro-engineer it so they could break it without breaking it? It's not like they couldn't go back and get help.
Yeah, because at the same time we have Daniel who doesn't want it broken, which is a from his point of view, valid. I get it. But then Jack orders him, he gives him the staff and he goes, stand on the other side and try from that side.
But why can't
And he doesn't really argue with it.
And also, Jack, that's kind of mean because you know he needs this.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't Jack do it? It's
So
not like
this-
Jack could walk through it. So this feels a bit weird.
It's rushed. This is a
Yes.
good character beat. We've spent all this time listening to Daniel yamming about his wife.
Sorry.
Just to forget her at the end and just doing what Jack says.
He plays it really well, though, because you can see that he wasn't given the lines to play with it, but
Yeah,
he tries.
He has this moment of doubt before he does it, but I
And he's-
really think they just could have made it a little bit bigger.
And then when he stands there and he did it and he broke it, you can see on his face that it's really a sad moment for him. But as you said, it is incredibly rushed. Why didn't anybody speak out and was like, well, we can come back. Like, the monster is dead. Teal'c
Yeah.
is for the moment safe. Here are all of our rations. I mean, we did leave Jack on a planet for days on end.
Yeah, and Kendra
I mean-
doesn't protest or anything. She's kind of forgotten in this
Kendra
final
just
confrontation.
stands on the side and is like, thank you for letting me face my fears. You did nothing. Well, you opened the door with magic. And now you're just standing there while these people destroy the thing that is keeping your
But
planet
what
safe.
were her fears?
The
Because-
labyrinth? I don't know.
Because she survived that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, like, you did face your fears. You got out of there.
Yeah.
So why do you need to go back and face them again?
Was something about this felt rushed and underthought.
So it's like this stock thing of go face your fears so you have some motivation, and then they just forget about her
Yeah.
completely. They, of course, wonder because Daniel shoots the door and there's some blue lightning going over it, and they go like, okay, did it work?
Which, again, if you short circuit something, that doesn't mean you can still not come back to it and see if you can fix it or try to figure out how it works.
Of
So
course.
I do, yeah.
At this point in the series, they do not have the technology to fix ancient tech.
No, but they can send someone to take a look. I don't know.
I-
It was
yeah,
very much
you're
like, oh, we found
absolutely-
something that was very, like, hopeful. Ah, well, guess we'll never talk about it again. I don't know.
Yeah, because Teal'c steps through it and it doesn't react, so he thanks Daniel and takes back his weapon. And Daniel kind of goes like, at least now we know that it is possible to get a Gua'old out, that it can be done. And then we cut to the gate with the obelisk, and Kendra says she's not sure now what will happen because the hammer is no longer working, which is a valid point.
It is a valid point, and she says it so casually.
Yeah.
And, and then the team's response is, look, I don't think Goulds are going to visit there. Kendra has only been there for 10 years. So it's not like it's something that, okay, that Unas had been there forever. But it does happen regularly enough that people at the gate immediately started laughing and chanting.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, we heard stories of our grandparents. No, this is definitely something that still happens. It's rare, but it happens. So saying like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, no, that's not, no, can you...
Like, the argument that the Gua'uld don't know that it's broken, okay, true.
Yeah.
But still, like you said,
Yeah,
someone can just come there by accident.
I know. Like, I mean, they blundered in. So it feels like there's loose ends that didn't really get tied up well. Like,
Yeah.
I
And then
didn't feel
she-
like this was very well
Yeah.
written.
And then Kendra hands them a rune stone to remember their world, which I was like, is this a thing that we just didn't see before? But okay.
I love how she's like, here, have a commemorative stone, and it's like everybody I can make this.
Yeah,
That's
you can
the
find that in
easy-
every gift shop.
I know, right? And Daniel's like, gee, thanks, I commissioned you a box,
But then he rushes.
you know, this is
yeah,
great too.
He rushes back to the Malp to get the box. Like, oh, we remember the box. Okay, fine.
Here.
And he
She's like-
hands it to Kendra and tells her, "This is for Thor to introduce us to the gods." And then thunder rolls because Thor is apparently happy he gets a box. And then
Jack does make the point, like, let's get out of here before it starts to rain, because he's like, yeah, no, this is just a thunderstorm. Like,
And then the gate, we see this nice wide shot. The gate activates and they walk away through the gate.
yeah. I found this episode lacking, which
It's-
is a shame because I like the idea of a Gua'old trap, and
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of, oh, and Teal'c's in there. There were so many cool beats, and then at the end it just fumbles it.
Yeah, also the Unas. which is the first appearance for them.
Mm-hmm.
Really good concept. Like, oh, men were not the first, which makes sense.
Yeah,
the
because-
first host would be a creature from their own
Yeah,
world.
you need opposable thumbs to get off planet.
Exactly. So that's all cool
I dropped my
world
pens.
building, but like you said, it just fumbles everything at
Mm-hmm.
the end. Like,
I don't know what went on there. It's like, oh, we have to get them out here now. Like, well, maybe if you would have shown us less trekking around the wilderness, not trusting this two-dimensional character, then maybe we would have had time to do something else here.
and the
don't
whole
know.
point was they were gonna look for a weapon, they break it, and like you said, they're not gonna even try to look at it.
Yeah. Like, even just a throwaway line of we'll send the team back to take a look at it, see if we can repair it, and we'll check in on you to make sure there's no Gua'old activity. No, yeah, I didn't really like where this one ended.
Exactly. That last scene just is like, just get back to Earth. Like,
Yeah.
check some boxes that make it
Yeah.
seem like you're tying off loose ends, but no, you're not.
Yeah.
Not at all. We don't even know how many people live there. We know there's a village because we see people and some carts. And that's about it. We see one house, but Kenra
One
lives...
horse.
Yeah, one horse, one house. It's a solid idea, and they're gonna build on it, but it's severely lacking.
Yeah.
Like Daniel just complaining about how he loves his wife, and like, we know, and it's
Yeah.
good to remind us, but there's a lot of story beats that get repeated because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of info we already know.
Which you do have to remember that it's not like nowadays that you can just see all of this in one go. You needed to be reminded throughout the season what people's motivation was.
It's also in a time where episodic television was the norm, and they in this one is like in between purely episodic and having some kind of arc to it.
Yeah.
So it does advance the characters and stuff, but it's still on episodic basis, so it will keep reminding us of story beats, and I think that it will get better.
Yeah. But at this moment in time, like this is episode 9. And I do feel that Teal'c as a character has grown in that he's slowly realizing that while he has a certain value that he can bring, Jack wasn't going to leave him behind because he's part of their team. Like,
But those beats really work.
those work. Meanwhile, Daniel is still like, have you heard about my wife? And then most people even have to keep calling her wife to Daniel's face because, like maybe call her by her name sometimes, Daniel. Like, this woman is a person on her own, right? I don't know. I just
Yeah.
don't really, I really don't like the Daniel line.
And Jack is kind of in the same position. For him, Skare is like his surrogate son. But it really doesn't get treated with the same weight as Daniel's wife is.
Well, and also Teal'c says if this works, then this can work for Skare. And Jack says, I thought about it, but it's not priority at that moment. Jack's taking a different priority.
Which I like.
Yeah.
Which I like, but we don't get the same kind of thought process for Daniel. He gets reduced to my wife.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Carter might as well have been anybody else in this episode, which is a shame. She's a scientist.
She does
She
bring up
should-
some good points, but it leads
Yeah.
to nothing. That's
it
the
leads
problem.
to nothing, and also she's a scientist. She should have at least said, like, is there a way we can break this without breaking it? And then maybe it turns out no, because we lacked the
Yeah.
technology.
I think maybe there was one element too many in the episode. Like, you have Thor's hammer, you also have the Unas, which also could have been a bigger
Mm-hmm.
point. And then you have the side quest with them trying to find them. And
Which again,
Those-
why? I mean, they didn't do anything.
yeah, and those three story things don't really go together in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Because it would have made more sense if it had been just Jack and Teal'c. Because then Jack can be like, okay, I don't know how to get you out of here. I don't know where the other team is. This is the only way I can get you out. Because I don't have Carter here to
Yeah.
jerry rig us out of here. And then it would have made so much more sense for Jack to just shoot the exit and then both of them getting out. That, to me, would have made more sense.
But I have the feeling like this, the Una being on some planet in some cave system could have been a story on its own. You don't need the whole Thor's hammer thing to really...
No, but you need something in there. Otherwise, they would have just sat there.
Yeah, true. Well, if it really was a labyrinth, you could do something with that, because it wasn't really a labyrinth. We see about 3 rooms and 1 tunnel.
Did you notice Jack says, "Are you sure we haven't been this way before?" Because I feel like we've been this way before.
And it's probably just the same
and
set.
probably it is, because, and he does that later on in spaceships too. He's like, why are all the spaceships the same? And it is a joke, because obviously they're reusing
It's
sets.
just the same set, yeah.
But I always love it when he goes that, when he does that. Anyway.
It's a bit confusing because he says that, like, have we been here before? But I have a feeling they don't have a really big set, and they don't really show it off. Like, I have no sense where they are in the labyrinth. Okay, it's a labyrinth, so you don't really know where you are. I get that, but I don't know. I think they could have done a lot more with this. So it's a solid idea, but it's executed sloppily.
Yeah.
I have nothing more to add, actually.
Oh, wait, in the last episode, is this an episode?
Yes, this is
Podcast?
an episode,
Okay.
yes.
We said that our DVD can be put into French as well as English. So at the end of this episode, I went back and I put the episode in French, because I just wanted to hear the voices. And it wasn't that as bad as I thought it was going to be, because Daniel's actor is good. He's on point. He comes over as a Daniel. But then Hammond started speaking, and it was like this nasal, squeaky, like, no, what?
Yeah,
No, this isn't Hammond.
He didn't have that low fatherly tone.
It was even worse than that. It was like, are you going to try and sell me fries? Like, there was no authority in that voice. And then Carter was okay. Teal'c, Carter was passable.
Passable, yeah.
And Teal'c did his best, because Teal'c sounded like...
Yeah, he had the deep voice.
Yeah.
He did have the little
the
monotone,
stoicness.
the stoicness. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jack started talking, and we were like, no, I don't know who you are, but there was no sarcasm in there. Like, I felt like every joke would have just fallen flat. But they do call the Stargate La Porte des Étoiles, and I did find that very pretty. That was very pretty. Okay. But I will not be putting it in French anymore. No, that's not. We don't have to do that.
I remember seeing a trailer for, I think it was episode 1 in French.
Why?
I think it was in France, if I'm remembering
well,
correctly, and it
that
was
would
on
explain
TV
it.
or something. And then Amidala came up, and she was like this squeaky French voice, and I was like, "What is this?"
Sometimes, and it's difficult to be a voice actor. It really is. And sometimes they just nail it, and sometimes you're like, why?
I find it fascinating that they still do it. They do put up more movies in the original language in France, but not everywhere, and not all of them. And there's actors that are just, you are this actor's voice actor, and this is your career. So it's actually it's interesting.
Yeah. For reference, in Belgium, we only dub the kid stuff.
Yeah.
And everything else is subbed. So at a certain point in time, you just switch as soon as your English is good enough that you don't have to read subtitles anymore. Well,
We put subtitles on everything, so...
Yeah, and everything is just subtitled.
Nowadays, they even do it on the shows in our own language. But it is more kind of for the people who are hard of hearing, so they have a visual aid. So it's a good thing.
Also for me, I am deaf without subtitles. Anyway, where can people find you?
They can find me here at home.
No!
In my sofa.
No, don't give us our home address.
Or on the internet. I am at Iradonian on Blue Sky and YouTube and TikTok. And I'm Arne Keustermans on Instagram.
And I am Evie Belknap on TikTok, on Blue Sky, on Instagram. And that's it.
Yeah. And when we recorded this, I did a online session, an RPG of Star Wars on the Dark Domains. So if you want to check that out, I will put a link in the description. I had a lot of fun.
And that's why he looks tired, because it was at 1:30 at night?
2:30.
2:30. Yeah, that's better somehow.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Anyway.
We will see you next time for the next episode in the series. So thank you for listening or watching. Until next time. Bye.